What's up, lore hunters? You think you know the world of Demon Slayer? Think again. The story of Tanjiro is just one chapter in a 1,000-year war, filled with lost histories and unanswered questions. Today, we're diving into the lore you've never seen. We're uncovering the 5 biggest mysteries in the series. Who were the first disciples of Yoriichi, who created the original breathing styles? What was Muzan doing for the 900 years he was left completely unchecked? Were Tamayo and Nezuko the only demons to ever break his curse? What forgotten breathing styles have been lost to time? And what is the real secret of the blue spider lily? By the end of this video, you'll see the entire Demon Slayer saga in a new light. So grab your blade, take a deep breath, and let's dive into the lost histories. Our first dive into the lost histories takes us back to the Sengoku period, the age of warring states. This was the era of the single greatest demon slayer who ever lived, Yoriichi Tsugikuni. We all know the legend, the man born with the demon slayer mark, the prodigy who invented breathing styles, and the only swordsman to ever push Muzan Kibutsuji to the brink of absolute annihilation. The manga tells us he created sun breathing, the one and only original style, the source from which all others flow. But Yoriichi didn't fight alone. He tried to teach his revolutionary technique to his comrades in the Demon Slayer Corps. The problem was, sun breathing was simply too complex, too perfect. It was tailored to Yoriichi's own unique, one-sign-a-millennium physiology. No one else could master it, but instead of giving up, Yoriichi did something brilliant. He adapted his teachings. He modified the techniques to fit the individual strengths and weaknesses of his students. And in doing so, the 5 foundational branches of breathing styles were born: flame, water, wind, stone, and thunder. And this is where we hit our first great mystery. The manga tells us what happened, but it never tells us who made it happen. Who were these first disciples? What were their names? Their backstories? Their personalities? The series leaves them as nameless, faceless figures. But they are arguably some of the most important people in the entire history of the Corps. They were the pioneers who took the power of a god and translated it for mortals. Let's speculate, based on what we know about the styles themselves. The first water-breathing user. Perhaps he was a fisherman's son. Someone who understood the power and adaptability of the ocean. He couldn't replicate Yoriichi's explosive power, but he could mimic the way water flows, defends, and crashes. He would have created a style that emphasizes fluid movement and defense, the most versatile and easy-to-learn style, which is why it becomes the most common one in the Corps. Then you have the first thunder-breathing user. The manga tells us this style focuses on channeling all of a user's strength into their legs for lightning-fast attacks. This first disciple must have been obsessed with speed above all else. Maybe they were a former shinobi or a messenger who believed that a single, perfect, instantaneous strike was the ultimate form of swordsmanship. They couldn't maintain the constant, flowing forms of sun breathing, so they focused on one explosive burst of power. This philosophy would be passed down for generations, eventually reaching Zenitsu. What about the first stone-breathing user? Stone breathing is unique, often utilizing heavy, unconventional weapons like Gyome Himajima's flail and axe. This founder was likely a person of immense physical strength, perhaps a former monk or a stonemason. They understood that they couldn't match Yoriichi's divine grace, but they could embody the unyielding power of the earth. Their style would be built on a foundation of unshakable defense and devastating, heavy-hitting blows. This brings us to the most dramatic and unexplored part of their story, their relationship with Yoriichi. Imagine being one of these swordsmen. You've spent your life fighting demons in the dark, barely surviving. Then, this man appears. He's not just a warrior, he's a force of nature. He moves like a deity and cuts down demons you thought were invincible. He would have been seen as a living legend, a savior. But then, the fall. Yoriichi fails to kill Muzan. He lets Tamayo escape, and the most devastating blow of all, his twin brother, Michikatsu, becomes the demon Kokushibo. Upper Moon 1, the Demon Slayer Corps, in their fear and ignorance, turned on their greatest weapon. They exiled Yoriichi. How did his students react? Did they stand by him? Did they feel betrayed? Or did they, in their grief and confusion, join the chorus of condemnation? The silence of the manga on this point is deafening. These first disciples, the founders of the very techniques that would define the Demon Slayer Corps for the next 400 years, are lost to history. Their names are forgotten, their stories untold. They are the unsung heroes whose legacy is felt in every single battle, yet their own lives remain a complete and total mystery. From the dawn of the Demon Slayers, we now turn to the dusk of humanity. Our second great mystery concerns the Demon King himself, Muzan Kibutsuji. The manga gives us the bookends of his story. We know he was born over 1,000 years ago, during the Heian period, a time of imperial courtly grace and hidden political turmoil. He was a sickly nobleman, cursed with an illness that would kill him before he turned 20. A desperate doctor gave him an experimental medicine made from the mythical blue spider lily, and in doing so, accidentally created the first demon. We also know that he was nearly killed by Yoriichi during the Sengoku period, about 400 years before Tanjiro's story begins. After that, he goes into hiding, meticulously rebuilding his power base. But this leaves us with a colossal, terrifying gap in the timeline. What was Muzan doing for the first 500 years of his existence, from the Heian period to the Sengoku period? And what about the centuries after his defeat by Yoriichi? The manga is almost completely silent. This wasn't just a quiet period. This was the golden age of demons. This was when Muzan was at his most active, his most experimental, and perhaps his most terrifying. Let's start with the first demons. Muzan is the progenitor, the source of all demonkind. But how did he perfect the process of sharing his blood? It couldn't have been a clean process from the start. Imagine the first humans he tried to convert. Did they just die? Did they turn into mindless, grotesque monsters that couldn't even follow his orders? It's highly likely that Muzan spent decades, if not centuries, refining his technique, treating human beings as nothing more than lab rats for his horrific experiments. He had to learn how much blood to give, which humans were strong enough to withstand the transformation, and how to establish the mental link that gave him absolute control. And this brings us to the 12 Kizuki, the 12 strongest demons under Muzan's command. The upper moons we meet in the series Kokushibo, Doma, Akaza are presented as the most powerful lineup in over a century. This is a crucial detail. It means the ranks weren't always stagnant. There were other upper moons before them, legendary demons from the Kamakura, Muromachi, and early Edo periods, whose power might have rivaled the ones we know. Who was the original Upper Moon 2 before Doma? Who held Akaza's spot as Upper Moon 3 during the Age of the Samurai? These weren't just random monsters. To become an Upper Moon, a demon had to have consumed countless humans and possessed a unique and devastating blood demon art. There could have been an Upper Moon who could manipulate weather, one who could create entire armies of illusions, or one who could swim through solid earth. These are the lost legends of the demon world, the titans who were eventually killed by legendary Hashira of the past, or, even more likely, killed and replaced by ambitious rivals like Doma and Akaza in bloody challenges for rank. But perhaps the most fascinating and unexplored part of Muzan's history is his life among the humans. For 1,000 years, Muzan's primary goal was to find the blue spider lily. He couldn't do this by rampaging across the country. He needed to be subtle. He needed to search, to gather information, and to remain hidden from the sun. To do this, he lived countless human lives. Think about it. Muzan is a shapeshifter. He can alter his appearance, his gender, his age. He could have been anyone. He could have infiltrated the highest levels of Japanese society, posing as a powerful lord, a respected poet, or even a trusted advisor to the shogun. From these positions, he could have access to ancient texts, rare botanical records, and a network of spies, all dedicated to his secret quest. He would have built immense wealth, commanded influence, and manipulated human history from the shadows, all while carrying out his nightly hunts. The families he started, like the one we see in the Asakusa arc, were not a one-time thing. They were a strategy, a form of camouflage he would have used again and again over the centuries, leaving a trail of broken lives and tragedies in his wake. This 900-year gap isn't just an empty space in the timeline. It's a chronicle of pure, unrelenting evil. It's the story of how a single, selfish man poisoned an entire nation for a millennium, building an empire of monsters while hiding in plain sight. The scale of his atrocities, the number of lives he destroyed, is almost impossible to comprehend, and the manga only gives us the smallest glimpse of his long and bloody reign. For centuries, the world of Demon Slayer was painted in black and white. There were humans, and there were demons. One was good, the other was evil. But the series introduces a fascinating and crucial shade of gray, embodied by two key characters, the elegant and brilliant Lady Tamayo, and our beloved Nezuko Kamado. They represent the impossible, a demon who has broken free from Muzan's curse. They can control their hunger, retain their sense of self, and actively fight against the very man who created them. And this brings us to our third great mystery. In 1,000 years, were they really the only ones? Is it truly possible that out of the thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of humans Muzan turned into demons, only 2 managed to break his control? Statistically, it feels incredibly unlikely. This points to a hidden history, an unseen resistance fighting a two-front war against both Muzan and the Demon Slayer Corps. Let's focus on Lady Tamayo. Her backstory is one of the most tragic in the series. She was a human woman with a loving husband and children, dying from an illness. Muzan offered her a cure, preying on her desire to see her children grow up. She accepted, only to transform into a demon and, in a mindless frenzy, kill her own family. It's a horrifying origin. After this, the manga tells us she spent centuries honing her medical knowledge to find a way to kill Muzan and to help humans. She eventually broke free of his control and created her own demon assistant, Yushiro. But the manga glosses over the most difficult part of her story. How did she survive for over 400 years? As a rogue demon, she was Muzan's #1 target. He is a tyrant who demands absolute loyalty. Any demon who defied him would be hunted relentlessly by the 12 Kizuki. Furthermore, she was also a target for the Demon Slayer Corps, who, for most of their history, wouldn't have hesitated to kill any demon on sight, regardless of the circumstances. Tamayo couldn't have survived alone. It's almost certain that she must have built a secret network, an underground railroad for those who sought freedom from Muzan's curse. This network would have been composed of brave human allies, doctors, scholars, and perhaps even disillusioned members of the Demon Slayer Corps, who had seen that not all demons were mindless monsters. They would have helped her find safe houses, procure research materials, and obtain the small amounts of human blood she needed to survive without killing. And what about other demons? It's a core part of Tamayo's character that she is compassionate. If she encountered another demon who was struggling against Muzan's control, would she turn them away? Absolutely not. It's plausible that over the centuries, she found others like her, perhaps not as strong or as successful, but demons who were hiding, resisting, and trying to retain their humanity. These rogue demons would have been her secret patients, her hidden allies in a war fought entirely in the shadows. They would have been a small, fragile community, constantly on the run, their existence a secret from the entire world. This also raises the question of how they broke free. The mechanics of Muzan's curse are never fully explained. It's a fusion of his blood and his psychic will. Tamayo mentions that it was an immense struggle. Nezuko seems to have done it through a combination of her own incredible willpower, Uroko Daki's hypnotic suggestion, and spending 2 years asleep to change her own body. Is it a biological process? Can a demon's body eventually metabolize and overcome Muzan's cells? Or is it a spiritual battle, a fight of willpower on the psychic plane? The existence of other rogue demons, even if they were few and far between, would completely recontextualize the world of Demon Slayer. It would mean that the fight for humanity wasn't just being waged by the Demon Slayers. It was also being fought by the very victims of Muzan's evil. A small, desperate handful of souls trapped in monstrous bodies, clinging to the last vestiges of their humanity. Tamayo wasn't just a brilliant doctor. She was the secret keeper of this entire hidden world, a beacon of hope in the deepest darkness. Her story, and the story of those she may have helped, is a lost history of incredible courage and quiet defiance. Our journey through the lost histories of Demon Slayer now brings us to the very source of the Corps' power, the breathing styles. We've talked about the 5 foundational styles that branched from Yoriichi's sun breathing. Over the centuries, these 5 became many, Flame breathing gave birth to Mitsure's love breathing. Water breathing branched into Shinobu's insect breathing and Kanaho's flower breathing. Wind breathing was the ancestor of Muichiro's mist breathing. The history of the core is a history of evolution and adaptation. But this raises a fascinating question. Our fourth great mystery. If new styles can be created, can old styles be lost? The answer is almost certainly yes. For every successful new branch that was passed down, there must have been dozens of experimental or niche styles that simply died out with their creators. The history of the Demon Slayer core is likely littered with forgotten breathing styles. Think about what could have been. What about earth breathing? A style derived from stone breathing, but focused on fighting in caves and underground, sensing vibrations through the ground. It might have been incredibly effective, but so situational that it was never widely adopted. Or what about light breathing, a theoretical offshoot of thunder breathing, that focused not on the speed of the strike, but on using the flash of the blade and reflective surfaces to blind and disorient demons. It would have required immense precision and a unique Nichiren sword, making it difficult to pass on. We could even speculate about a steel breathing, a style focused entirely on defense, on parrying and breaking demon claws, and even their own blood demon arts. A master of steel breathing might not have been the best at killing demons, but they would have been the ultimate protector, a living shield for their comrades. But in a core that valued offensive power above all else, such a passive style might have been looked down upon, its practitioners rare, until eventually it was lost to time. These forgotten arts are the ghosts in the machine of the Demon Slayer core, a testament to the countless swordsmen who tried to forge their own path. Their innovations ultimately lost to the relentless tide of the war against demons. And this brings us to our final and most important mystery, the one that started it all, the alpha and the omega of the entire Demon Slayer saga, the blue spider lily. This flower is the entire reason the story happens. It's the core ingredient in the medicine that turned Muzan into a demon. It's the one thing he believes will grant him his ultimate desire, to conquer the sun and become truly immortal. For 1,000 years, he has dedicated all of his vast resources and the entire existence of the demon race to finding this one single plant. And for 1,000 years, he has failed. The manga gives us the answer to why he failed in a moment of beautiful, tragic irony. In the final chapters, Ahoba Hashibira, Inosuke's descendant, discovers the truth in an old botany text. The blue spider lily is incredibly rare. It blooms for only 2 or 3 days a year. And here's the kicker. It only blooms during the daytime. The one thing that can perfect the Demon King is utterly inaccessible to him because of the very curse he wants to break. He is the architect of his own eternal frustration. But this answer only creates more questions. And the biggest one of all is about the man who found it in the first place, the doctor. This nameless, faceless physician from the Heian period is arguably the second most important character in the entire series, after Muzan himself. He is the man who lit the fuse on 1,000-year war, and we know absolutely nothing about him. Who was he? Was he a compassionate genius, desperately trying to save a dying young nobleman? Or was he a mad scientist, obsessed with a mythical plant, willing to take a terrible risk for the sake of a breakthrough? The manga never says. We don't know his name, his motivations, or if he had any idea of the hell he was about to unleash. He traveled all over Japan to find the flower, which we know grows on Mount Kumodori. Why was he so dedicated to Muzan's case? Was he a family friend? Or was Muzan just a convenient test subject for his life's work? And what about the flower's deeper properties? One of the most compelling fan theories, and one that just makes too much sense not to be true, is that the blue spider lily has a deep, intrinsic connection to sun breathing. Think about it. The flower that creates demons can only be found in the light of the sun, the very thing that destroys them. It's a perfect duality. This has led to the theory that the flower only grows in soil where a sun-breathing user has been buried. A beautiful, cyclical piece of lore where the death of a sun warrior gives birth to the one thing the Demon King needs, but can never reach. This theory gets even more interesting when we connect it to the Kamado family. Netsuko is the first demon in history to conquer the sun. Why? The manga never gives a definitive answer. But what if it's not just about her strong will? The blue spider lily was known to be used by common people in small amounts for medicinal purposes. The Kamado family lived on a mountain, just like the one where the lily grows. What if, for generations, the Kamado family had been unknowingly consuming trace amounts of the blue spider lily? What if the key to Muzan's ultimate goal wasn't some grand treasure, but a simple charcoal-burning family, living peacefully in the mountains, with the power to conquer the sun literally running through their veins? The irony is almost too perfect. So, there you have it, the lost histories of Demon Slayer. The story of the first disciples who translated a god's power for mortals. The 900-year reign of terror that Muzan orchestrated from the shadows. The secret war, fought by rogue demons like Lady Tamayo. The forgotten arts of the sword lost to time. And the impossible flower that sits at the very center of it all. These missing pieces of lore aren't just trivia. They enrich the world that Koyoharu Gotoge created, showing us that it's a world in constant motion. It's a living, breathing history, where secrets are buried, legacies are forgotten, and the fight between good and evil is far more complex than it appears on the surface. The story of Tanjiro Kamado is the final, explosive chapter of a 1,000-year saga. But it's not the whole book. The beauty of these unanswered questions is that they allow the world of Demon Slayer to live on. They give us, the fans, the space to wonder, to speculate, and to keep the spirit of the story alive. The battle may be over, but the history is endless. But what do you guys think? What piece of missing lore fascinates you the most? Are there any other theories or unanswered questions that keep you up at night? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the lost histories, don't forget to unsheathe that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell icon so you don't miss our next journey into the lore. Until next time, lore hunters, keep asking questions and never stop exploring. Before we close the book on these lost histories, there's one more mystery worth exploring. One that ties directly into the legacy of Yoriichi and the first disciples. The Demon Slayer Mark. This mysterious birthmark appears on the most powerful Demon Slayers, granting them incredible strength, speed, and heightened abilities. But where does it come from? And why does it come with such a terrible price? The manga tells us that Yoriichi was born with his mark, a natural part of his being. When other Demon Slayers push their bodies to the absolute limit, raising their heart rate and body temperature to extreme levels, they can awaken their own mark. But here's the catch. The manga reveals that almost everyone who awakens the mark dies before the age of 25. It's a curse disguised as a blessing, a power that burns so bright it consumes the user from within. But Yoriichi lived to old age, dying peacefully while standing, his sword still in hand. He is the only exception. Why? The manga never fully explains this. Was it because his mark was natural, not forced? Was his body simply built differently, capable of handling the strain that would kill anyone else? Or is there a deeper, spiritual reason tied to his connection to sun breathing? This also raises questions about the first disciples. If they learned from Yoriichi and developed the foundational breathing styles, did any of them awaken the mark? If they did, it would mean they all died young, their incredible potential cut short by the very power they sought. This would add another layer of tragedy to their story. They weren't just forgotten, they were sacrificed. Their lives burned away in the fight against Muzan's evil. The Demon Slayer mark isn't just a power-up. It's a symbol of the core's entire philosophy, to give everything, even your future, for the sake of humanity. And what about the visual differences in the marks? Tanjiro's mark resembles a flame. Muichiro's is like mist. Mitsure's has a heart shape. The manga implies these are tied to their breathing styles. But how? Is the mark a physical manifestation of the user's soul, their fighting spirit made visible? Or is it a biological reaction, the body's way of adapting to the extreme stress of total concentration breathing? The mechanics are never explained, leaving it as one of the series' most visually striking, yet deeply mysterious elements. The Demon Slayer mark is a perfect encapsulation of the series' core themes. Power always comes with a price. Strength is born from sacrifice. And the fight for a better world requires warriors willing to burn their own lives as fuel for the flame. It's a beautiful, tragic, and utterly unforgettable part of the lore. And finally, we must talk about the Ubuyashiki family. the leaders of the Demon Slayer Corps. Their story is one of the most tragic and overlooked pieces of lore in the entire series. The Ubuyashiki family has led the Corps for generations, dedicating their entire existence to the destruction of demons. But they carry a terrible curse, a debilitating illness that causes their bodies to deteriorate, their skin to rot, and their lives to be cut tragically short. No head of the Ubuyashiki family has ever lived past the age of 30. But here's the twist that changes everything. The manga reveals that the Ubuyashiki family shares the same bloodline as Muzan Kibutsuji. They are his distant relatives, descendants of the same noble family from the Heian period. The curse they suffer from is the exact same genetic illness that Muzan had as a human, the one that drove him to accept the doctor's experimental treatment in the first place. This is cosmic irony on a scale that's almost hard to comprehend. The same bloodline that produced the ultimate evil also produced the family that has dedicated 1,000 years to stopping him. The Ubuyashiki family's suffering is a direct consequence of Muzan's existence. Their curse is his curse, and the only way to break it, the only way to free themselves, is to kill the man who shares their blood. It's a battle not just for humanity, but for their own family's salvation. Kagahaya Ubuyashiki, the head of the family during Tanjiro's time, is the embodiment of this tragic legacy. He is kind, wise, and beloved by his demon slayers. But his body is failing him. He can barely see, he can barely move, and he knows he will die young, just like his father, and his grandfather, and every Ubuyashiki before him. Yet, he never wavers. He leads with grace, with compassion, and with an unshakable belief in his demon slayers. His final act, sacrificing himself and his family in an explosion to wound Muzan, is the ultimate expression of the Ubuyashiki curse. They are a family born to suffer and born to fight until the very end. The Ubuyashiki curse is a reminder that in the world of Demon Slayer, no one is untouched by Muzan's evil. Even those who lead the fight against him carry his poison in their veins. It's a story of inherited trauma, of a family bound by fate to atone for the sins of a distant relative, and of the incredible strength it takes to turn a curse into a cause. These are the stories that live in the margins, the histories written in invisible ink. The Demon Slayer mark, a power that devours its users. The Ubuyashiki curse, a bloodline bound to fight its own kin. These aren't just footnotes. They're the foundation upon which the entire saga is built. They remind us that every character, every power, and every battle in Demon Slayer is connected to a deeper, older story. A story of sacrifice, of legacy, and of the endless war between light and darkness. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the lost histories of Demon Slayer. This has been a passion project, and I hope it's given you a new appreciation for the incredible depth of this world. If you made it this far, you're a true lore hunter, and I salute you. Now get out there and keep the story alive. See you in the next one.